Hello, hello. 2:30, coming up on 2:30 anyway. And I'm excited because today I'm going to be talking with Kris Carr, who I have admired for some time. Multi-New York Times bestselling author. She is a wellness activist and a cancer thriver, and she's going to talk to us about her new book, I'm Not a Mourning Person. And I have read this book, and I have got to tell you, it changed so many ways that I think I'm going to start thinking about certain things that, get you upset in life and you don't know how to deal with things and you don't know what to do and you're asking why all the time. So I just saw her jump in here. So this was just a real wake-up call, this book. And it's just one of those books that I think you'll be going through your life thinking about and talking about to other people. Hi, everybody. Yeah, jump in here because if you have some questions for her, I'd love for you to ask them. Let me see where she is. We will send a link out to the book as well. It's called I'm Not a Mourning Person. Let's see where she is. I just saw her jump up there. Just takes a minute, Yeah, we'll put the book out there. The book actually was just released today, so I don't know if you've probably seen her all over the place today. Hi there, Kris.
Hey!
Nice to see you again.
Oh, it's so nice to see you. I'm such a fan, so it was so fun to be on your show, but then to actually really see you.
Oh, back at you. I'm a fan. I was so glad. It's so funny. I didn't know you were coming on that day. She came on the newscast to share a segment with us during our 4 o'clock show, and I was so excited when I saw your name pop up in the script when we were going through everything. I thought I love Kris, so that's going to be good. It was just great. It was great. So I was excited to have you here too.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I know this has been a big day. I know the book. This is pub day. Is that
This
right?
is Pub Day. It's in people's homes. It's in Amazon trucks. It's making its way.
Right? I know. You know what? I can't. I know you're an author and you're a New York Times best-selling author, and so you have written several books before. And I feel like every time you write a book, it is so raw, and I just always wonder what it takes to get there for you. So I can't wait to dive into that. You have so many fans out there because they really, I think, and I for one feel like I've been with you through so much of your journey.
Mm. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
To me, the fun part is being truthful. The fun part of the creative process is saying, okay, how can I tell it like it is? How can I share the truth of my experience? Because I think we live in this very polished world.
Yeah.
And when we're going through difficult times, nothing is polished, right? And I know
Yeah.
myself, like I need to hang with people or read things or listen to podcasts or whatever from people who are going to really say it like it is.
And I also feel like it's where we are right now in the world. Like, I think we need that realness and we need to know other people are going through what we are dealing with and we maybe just don't know how to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. And you put your finger on the nose of it right there because we don't know how to talk about it because we live in a grief phobic, messy emotions, not just grief, it's anger, it's jealousy, it's guilt, it's all of the big stuff.
Hmm.
But, if it doesn't come out one way, it often comes out the back door, which is always not as healthy, right?
You know what? I think let's see. There you go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
back.
Got you. I saw all the messages go into come over at once. And I thought, uh-oh, I don't know what's going on. You're right, though. Going back to what you were saying, if you're not dealing with it one way, you're going to deal with it another. And there's no question about that. And I think when we talk about, I mean, grief is not something we talk about very often. It's not something we want to talk about very often. We want to hope it's not going to happen, but we know inevitably this is life and these kind of things do. And when we come up on them, we don't often know how to deal with it, until we're right in the middle.
Yeah, you said it so beautifully. It's the one thing we all have in common. And yet few of us know how to survive storms of this magnitude when we're going through a divorce, we've just had a miscarriage, a diagnosis, the loss of a loved one. I wrote my book and I called it I'm Not a Mourning Person because it was the one emotion, even as somebody who's lived with stage 4 cancer for 20 years, who is a wellness coach, who's written 7 books, you know, it's the one place I was like, oh, no, not there.
Yeah.
And when the rug got pulled out from under me yet again, and this time in a very impactful way, I was like, look, girl, the way out is through. What you don't want to touch is just going to continue to grow and fester. And this is not good for your health. It's not good for your well-being. It's not good for your joy. And so ultimately, I think that this book is about love more than loss, because they're two sides of the same coin. And it's about learning to love the parts of yourself that right now you're really resistant to.
Oh, it's so true. You know, as I was reading it, you talk about what you call ruptures, and it was so spot on. You know, I lost my mother when I was 20 years old, and so you know, when you were talking about so many things with your father, it brought me back, and I think I was so young at the time. I really did take that grief and put it somewhere else, but the love is the other side of that. And I want to talk a little bit about ruptures, and I don't want to give anything away. And I know a lot of people are saying that the book is on the way to them, or they've already received the book, which is super exciting. But yes, but talk about the concept in your book, ruptures. What is a rupture?
It's that moment when the shizzle hits the fan. It's the moment when you feel the rug has been pulled out from under you, that life kicked you in the teeth. You know, it's that moment where you believe that nothing will ever be the same. And here's the deal. You're right. It won't be the same. But here's the truth. Ruptures, in addition to the enormous amount of pain they also bring an opportunity for growth. Ruptures rearrange us. Yeah. Ruptures help us realign our values, our priorities. Ruptures can even resuscitate an old dream that you thought, oh, that moment has passed. And you realize life is too short for you to decide any moments that lead to your destiny and to your joy have passed. They haven't.
I love that. Those are the things that we need to hear. I know nowadays you flip through social media and everybody is, you know, it's great, it's this, it's your best, it's that, and I love that. But there's also reality that we have to talk about to get to that next place. And when you are raw and honest like this, I wonder, as I was reading, I was thinking, how hard was this book? How difficult was this book for you to write? It's one thing, the difficulty going through it. It's another thing going back and reliving it, but then also understanding the lessons that came from it.
Writing is how I process. Writing is how I get to know myself. Writing is my spiritual practice. And so, yeah, it was really hard. It took 3 years, but it was also really wonderful. And I did a lot of research and did a lot of therapy, and I had really wonderful editors supporting me. And anytime I thought, like, there's a chapter all about anger, and it's called Becoming Unbecoming. Because, you know, my grandmother used to say, don't be unbecoming. That behavior's unbecoming for ladies. You know?
I remember that line very well in my own life.
Different times, right? And my beautiful editors would push me to go deeper, and I'd say, I'm so embarrassed to share that story. And they were saying, you know, they'd say, you need to actually go deeper with it. It's not reading right now. And so it was like mental fitness for me and spiritual fitness. And I was so excited when it was done. And I have to tell you that I actually really miss writing it now. I'm like,
oh, wow.
I don't want it to be done.
But I feel like you're going to relive it because you're going to be talking to so many people about it. And for this book, look, there's nobody, anybody that reads this book is going to be touched by it because everybody has gone through some type of grief or loss or experience. And we're all going to continue to go through those things, no matter what area we're talking about. So I just feel like it's now that you're done writing it, it's going to touch so many lives, and you're going to hear those stories. And I can't imagine what you're going to hear. Natalie saying, please write another one. You need a minute. Trish is asking the name of the book. I'm Not A Mourning Person, and we'll make sure that we also put links out there too. And we're going to repost this interview in case you're jumping in here at the last minute to make sure that you see the interview with Kris as well. You talked about the fact that your dad shared so many life lessons with you in his final days. Are there certain ones, or one in particular, that's really meant the most to you?
Yeah, I'm going to give you one that's sort of like eat your vegetables, and then I'm going to give you dessert, right?
Okay.
The eat your vegetables, this is a good one, and I know that you're going to resonate with this. He used to tell me, do the hard thing first. I know. I know. I know.
We know.
I know. But oftentimes we work on the low-hanging fruit in our lives, or in our businesses, or, in our dreams, and the low-hanging fruit doesn't get us very far. The hard thing, or the challenging thing, is usually the thing that's going to create a domino effect of change and positivity and abundance in your life, or even just ease because you got that conversation over and now you're not going to ruminate about it. So I try to listen to that every single day because I'm resistant, and I'm like, I like little pieces of fruit at the bottom. It's easier.
Yeah.
So that's the one that's like medicine for all of us, and this one is spiritual medicine for all of us. And one of my most cherished things that he said to me was, make your golden years now.
So true.
Right? We wait. We say, once the kids go to college, once this part of, the season of our life is less intense, once whatever it is, then we'll go on the trip, do the thing we've always wanted to do with our best friend, whatever, treat ourselves in some way. And, my father was retiring. He was selling his business. He was getting ready for this next chapter in his early 70s. And now he was dying of a terminal illness. And he said, don't put it off, make golden moments every single day. And though his life was shortened, the quality of his life grew, because I saw him, even with the 4 years that he had, I saw him make so many golden moments, and that will always stay with me. And I hope that if anybody takes anything from this live, that it's like, what can I do today to make my life a little more golden? A small thing. It doesn't have to be that you're flying to Paris later this afternoon, although you and I would love to join. We're a little committed right now.
Maybe.
But it could be just something that you have been putting off that would just give you delight. That's golden.
It's so beautiful. It makes you want to step away and go, I've got to do that now, because you're right. That is what it is. We're not promised tomorrow, and we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. And I hear so many people, and I do it myself. I'm guilty of it myself, of like, someday I'm going to do that. Someday. And I think that you and I both know that we're not always promised someday, and I know for you, when you started this journey, sharing your own journey so many years ago with your stage 4 diagnosis, and what you did with that and where you are today, I feel like you've done that. You have lived these moments. Do you feel like you have, where you're doing the thing that's the most important, and that probably comes from your father?
I do, but I also go back to sleep. I do.
We all do, right?
And I think the whole point is, you just said it, we all do. We have these wake-up calls, and then we're more aware and we're more conscious, and we go back to sleep. And not to beat ourselves up, but to maybe like shrink the time.
Yeah. No, you're right.
From like, oh, I'm asleep. I see that. Yeah. Let me wake back up and realign and reprioritize what matters.
Something that really also touched me, and as a journalist, we always say, like, the who, what, where, when, why, and you talk about the difference between what and why. Can you go into that a little bit? Because I think sometimes we interchange those words and don't really think about it, and don't think about the significance of them, but they're very different.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I know for myself, when I was newly diagnosed, and this is a story that'll illustrate it real quickly, is I spent a lot of time on the why. Why me? Why did I get sick? Why did this happen? It must have been something that I did. All of the why. And I
Yeah.
was ruminating. And so when we're ruminating, we're stuck in the unchangeable past. We're spinning our wheels. That is not good for our well-being. It creates more anxiety, more stress hormones, all the things. Sometimes we can learn a very valuable question by asking why. It's essential that we ask why, but we can't get stuck in the why. And so what I say to people, especially if they're going through a tough time, why did he leave me? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, okay, let's focus on what. What can we do now to support ourselves? So that's three categories. One, our mental health, our physical health, and our spiritual health. And it's not about him. It's about what you can do to support you in those three categories.
It is so critical, because you're right. We do get stuck on the why, and there isn't always an answer for the why. The why doesn't always rarely has an answer, actually, especially when we're dealing with big life situations. I don't know, that really touched me when I read that. I thought, oh, the what is where it's at. The what is what we should be answering. We talk a lot about wellness. You have done that for a very, very long time, but you really talk about the pillars of wellness in this book. Can you share what those are and how you implement those day to
Yeah,
day?
absolutely. So I teach what I call the 5 pillars of wellness, and that's about being mindful of what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're thinking, and how you're resting and renewing. But the key word is mindful. It is not beating yourself up. It is not trying to be perfect. It is not trying to hack yourself in a million pieces and
Yeah.
supercharge your biology. It is literally about putting in more energy deposits than withdrawals. And I think when we're going through difficult times, it's important to lower the bar. I think we talked about this a little bit on your show, because when
Hmm.
we put the bar so high, oftentimes, first of all, the energy is going into caretaking, the energy is going into repair, the energy is going into calming the chaos,
Right.
right? So if we set the bar so high, it's inevitable that we're probably going to fail. And when
Of
we
course.
do, what are we going to do? We're going to feel bad about ourselves, right? And so I love to say that even a thimble size amount of self-care starts to fill that well. So have that glass of
Hmm.
water, make that smoothie, go for a walk. Like, you don't have to do all of these things, but if you think
Right.
about the pillars, what's one pillar you can choose and one step you could take?
It's so important, because I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed with like what I should do, what I need to do, and then you just kind of give up, right? You think like, I'm not going to be able to do it all. I'm not going to be able to get up in the morning, brush my teeth a different way, meditate, exercise, work out. And so then we just kind of give up. If we think if we can't do it all, what's the point of doing any? And that's really not where we need to be. Um, we talk a little bit about fear and anxiety, and those are things that are we use the word fear often, and we try to work around fear and not actually go through it, and try to avoid it altogether, and try to live our best and our happy life. But fear and anxiety are part of it. They're just all part of the equation, and you talk a lot about that. I think what's important in each one of I think what's important in each one of the chapters of the book is you really kind of, you talk about what you've been through, but you really share in a very simplistic, digestible. I felt like I walked away and I went, oh, I can do that. Okay, now I understand. It's not, the book is put together in such a way where I want to bring it throughout my life with me. Was
Mm,
that hard for you to put together like that? Because I think that sometimes making things almost simple for somebody are the hardest things to do.
I have to make these things simple for myself as a human walking around in sneakers, dealing with a lot of different emotions
Yeah.
in any given day, and physical experiences with my health and well-being. And so for me, it's like, how can I break this down in the simplest way that will actually help somebody, first and foremost, understand something like fear or something like anxiety, to know that all of these emotions, all they are is information, and they're designed
Hmm.
to keep us safe. And when they're out of balance, it's a sign that they need care.
Yeah.
And so in the book, I'm teaching you some ways that you can care for your fear, that you can care for and tend to your anxiety so that they don't overwhelm you. But I think it's also important to say that we can't amputate any of our emotions and expect to be whole,
Right.
right?
Yes.
But we
You're
try.
right.
Boy, do we
You're
try.
right.
You're like, not cute, Shame.
out of here. It is so true. I have to just go back to this comment. I just saw Mike shared this with us. He said, never said why me when we were talking about the why what. I said, I'll prove them wrong. 5 years into stage 4, I've done that with Kris's help.
That's incredible.
I had to share that with you. Let's talk about you a little bit because you've been through your own journey, and doing that alongside your father with what you've been through for so many years now. What was that for you in terms of being able to help him with understanding and help him with going forward? Were there lessons in your own life that you felt were helpful to him in his journey in those final days?
Oh, absolutely. And first I'll start by saying, I remember when the nutritionist came in at the hospital and she said, "Oh, your daughter's Kris Carr, you're fine, just do whatever she says."
Yeah.
And of course I have to say that was the last thing he wanted to hear.
Sure.
And I quickly had to remember or relearn that people aren't projects.
Mm-hmm.
Because I came in guns blazing and I was like, "Hey, we're going to change your diet. We're going to change your lifestyle. We're going to do all these things." Because I was terrified because I wanted to save him. Right? And what he taught me was the greatest medicine of all is love. Being present and being willing to show up for your people and for yourself, even when it's not going the way you want it to go, even when loss is inevitable. And the depth of that and how our relationship grew, but also how my relationship with myself grew, is indescribable. I do my very best to describe it and lay out a path for people when they're struggling in these places. But boy, was it the medicine that I needed. It was like, it kind of put me in my place. And I was like, oh, I'm going to a whole other layer of learning. I get it.
It's hard. When you say people aren't projects, you're so right about that because that's the gear I go into too. And I think a lot of us do. We're like, just the facts, let me deal with that part. And then I don't have to go to the next layer. And if I don't have to go to the next layer, it's a little bit easier if I can just deal with what's here. And I problem solve, but that's not really sharing the time with somebody. And so I'm so grateful that you had that time, real time with him, real time, getting to maybe re-know him and re-know yourself, and then sharing it with all of us, Kris, really, because I can't imagine. I know it's healing for you to write, but I can't imagine what you've been through. But to share it with other people, I know it's going to change so many lives.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.
I mean it.
I know you do, and I'm grateful. It's changed mine so much, and it's sort of like I can't keep it to myself, because we're all going in the same direction.
Yeah.
And I think we're all so afraid of some of these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
When we start to have them, we learn a little bit about this terrain. We realize that there's nothing to be afraid about. And if anything, these conversations about really the big things in life help us live our best life, that great tagline, right? This is how we get there, right? We can't just put lip gloss on our pain and be like, it's good. We can't. So if we really want to make the most of this time that we have, I think that this is some of the work we need to do.
Yeah, I think it is too. I love that you walk people through it. If you guys are just coming in here, I'm going to share this interview for sure, so you have it along with a link. I'm Not a Mourning Person. If you haven't gotten the book yet, hopefully it's on the way to you. And if it's not on the way, we'll make sure that you have a link to order it. Kris, I'm so happy for you. I'm glad we could make this work today on your pub day. I know this is a big day for you, and I know that you're really, really busy, but I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh gosh, I appreciate you giving me the time. It means the world to me. Thank you so much for your support.
Well, thank you. And you touch all of us with your just being so authentic and so raw, and I appreciate it. And we'll have to be in touch, and we'll have to figure out another time so we can spend some more time diving into some more. But I'm so glad we were able to do this.
Let's do that. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Bye-bye.
Thank you.